Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I am scrapbooking my very first page using the Take Me Home kit from MercyTiaraKits.com. And I'm just having a look at all of I have the cardstock add-on and the extra pattern paper add-on, but I also have the main kit and the embellishment kit. I'm scrap lifting myself for this one. This is an old layout that I did many years ago when I was working with the Scraptastic Kit Club, and it came back to my attention recently through a friend of mine, and I decided that I'd like to scrap lift this, taking both the angled title and that kind of section at the top that's angled. That was actually built into the background paper that I was using in that layout. So in this layout, I'm going to recreate that look using the supplies that I have. I don't have a paper that's already designed on the angle, so I'm going to make my own background that's designed on an angle like that. And like the inspiration piece, I'm using 3 photos that I will place right side by side. And I'm actually going to stick to the scrap lift layout quite closely, and you'll notice at the end that it turns out to look quite different despite the fact that it's almost the exact same layout. So this is kind of fun. Yeah, I always find it fun and a little bit easier to scrapbook when I'm scrap lifting or using a sketch where I'm staying very, very close to the original. And so this one does stay close to the original. I didn't necessarily mean to do it that way, but the more I scrapbooked along and was liking the choices as I followed the scrap lift inspiration piece, the more I liked it. So I just kept on going with it. So I'm starting by matting these 3 photos all together on my cardstock. This is Swiss dot cardstock that came in the cardstock add-on of the kit. And then, like the original piece, which has the photo strip backed on a piece of pattern paper, in that case it was stars. In this case, I'm using this red floral paper that came in the kit. And what I love about it is that it brings in the red from the apples because we were apple picking in these photos. These are 3 different years. We've gone apple picking almost every year since Scott and I met each other. And so this is a really strong tradition in our family. And I had many different options to choose from when printing up photos of our apple picking, but I didn't have too many that had all of us in it. So I chose these 3. So as you can see, I just kind of eyeballed cutting that, and I did use my Caterpillar crop trimmer for that because it enables me to cut even longer than 12 inches, because when you cut on an angle, it is longer than 12 inches. So I love that yellow floral pattern paper from Simple Stories that came in the kit, but I'm going to want to add a little bit of boldness and some definition between my background cardstock, which is more of that Swiss dot cardstock, and my patterned paper. So I cut a chunk of this wood grain paper, also from the kit, and as you can see, I just cut it down so that so much of it wasn't covered. I wanted to save it for another layout. And now this whole thing looks pretty similar to the original, especially when it comes to the angle. So I'm just going to attach this paper to the top. And instead of the title being on that angle in the top, I have my patterned paper and then my very thin layer of the brown wood grain pattern paper as well, to just emphasize and differentiate between my background and that pattern paper. I'm pulling up the edges on all of these pieces, especially those angled edges. So if it was a straight layout, what I'm pulling up is everything that would be horizontal. Of course, it's not quite a 45-degree angle, but it's on an angle. Now I'm grabbing my stamps because I was thinking that because these photos are taken over the span of, I think, 5 years, I might want to put something, I don't know, some type of an embellishment or a stamp or something that says through the years or something related to the years, but I decided not to. Instead, what I will do is I'll use a roller date stamp to just put the years in the top right-hand corner of each of those photos. You will see that in the photos at the very end, but you won't see me doing it because I did it after I finished rolling. So I glued down that photo strip, and now I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do on either side of the photo strip. In my original piece, I had frames that were protruding from either side. So I have these frames from Pink Fresh Studio. I really love these, and I typically don't use them as frames for photos. I use them as something that might kind of anchor other embellishments, which is how I'm going to use them today. Or I might use them to hold journaling or something like that. Love having these frames on hand for that kind of a purpose. These Pink Fresh Studio frames are one of my all-time favorite embellishments. They make a set with almost every collection these days, and they're really great to have on hand. I'm just trying to pick out some of them that coordinate with the colors that I'm using in this spread. So I have a green one, which there's no green yet in the pattern papers, but there's lots of green in the photos. And then I picked two different pink ones. I'm going to change it around a little bit before the end of the layout, but that's what I'm starting with. Now in the original layout, I backed my frames that I used on either side of the photo strip. I backed it with vellum, but in this case, I'm backing these frames with some glassine from an old glassine bag that I have on hand. I always keep these glassine bags because they make a really great scrapbooking layer. And so I'm just sticking the frames to the glassine and then trimming it down so that you can't see any glassine sticking out. And sometimes that means I pull it back a little bit and cut it. My scissors are not cutting this glassine very well. I'm not sure. I think that my smaller scissors need to be replaced or sharpened or fixed or taken a look at the very least, because they're not working as they used to. I've had them for a very, very long time, so they might just need to be replaced at this point. They've been used for a lot of things that they probably shouldn't have been used for. But what I really love about the glassine is, first of all, I had it on hand and didn't have to go looking for vellum, but also it gives me a little bit of a shinier texture than vellum does. And I'm just wanting to get lots of texture on this page because at this point I'm thinking it's probably going to be fairly simple, but I end up putting quite a few embellishments, especially given the space. I do pile in a lot of embellishments on this page. I did think about using these rub-ons for this page and having them kind of coming out from behind the photo strip, but I've decided not to, and I'm going to focus on these paper die cut pieces. So I have these ones from Farmstead Harvest. All of these things came in the kit. I don't think there's anything in this layout that isn't from the kit. My very first step in embellishing is just familiarizing myself with what I have, and in this case, there's only certain things that will work with the scale that I have here. So because so much of this layout is taken up by that big chunk of yellow floral paper at the top, I have limited space here to work with for embellishing. And I do want to put a title on here as well. And I want the title to use those puffy gold stickers that came in the kit, the thickers. And so that's going to be a fairly big title, I think. I don't know what the title is yet, but I'm thinking it'll probably be not small. So therefore, I'm sticking to smaller embellishments here. I'm also choosing smaller embellishments because I'm using those Pink Fresh Studio frames that have the glassine on them. I'm using those as my anchoring points. And so if I used really big embellishments, they would just cover those and they wouldn't no longer be used as an anchor. So these tickets and little flagged word embellishments are my favorites for this particular layout. So I'm just having a look at what the options are here. And I was thinking about potentially layering those three together with that pink frame below, and maybe layering these two and another word banner. I don't know which one. And then I really like the idea of bringing that yellow and white gingham in. And so I put that little flag down there, and there's another one. So there's this bluey green color on both sides. I needed to bring some blue over to the other side. And I also brought more of that yellow gingham over to the right side because I'd already put a little bit on the left side. So I'm just trying to balance my sides so that there's pink on both sides, that bluey green on both sides, and that gingham on both sides as well. I really love these two embellishments from the Fancy Pants, the honey for sale and then the label. And I'm also picking out these doilies. Now, if I were thinking more clearly here, I would have put the pink doily over where the blue one is and the blue one where the pink one is, because see how on the left side I have a pink doily label layered with a pink frame, and if I just switched them, I'd have a pink doily with a green frame and a blue doily with a pink frame, so they would all be different. But for whatever reason, I didn't notice that, and you'll see me fix that later on in the layout, but it caused me a few problems, so you'll get to see how I solved that. So another option would have been to use these brown doilies instead of the die cut doilies from Fancy Pants. I really love this little bit of lace. I forget what that stuff is called, but I really love that. And so I wanted to tuck that up underneath. And now I'm getting to the point where I have all these things tucked in and it's time to start gluing them down. At first, I was only going to put glassine on 2 of the frames, of the 4 frames. I mean, this one is just 1, but it's cut in half to look like 2. But now I'm deciding to put glassine on all of them because some of these frames aren't even going to show very much. So I thought I'm going to put glassine in all of them because I don't know which ones will show and which ones don't. And I don't think it's too much to have glassine in all of them. I think it actually makes better sense than to have it in some and not in others. So I just actually fished that glassine bag out of the garbage so that I could use it again because I knew I had big enough pieces to back these 2 little half frames as well. And I'm just tearing it so that you can't see the glassine showing through in the little notch in the frame. So there was another chance for me to notice that I was layering a pink frame with a pink doily, but I still haven't noticed. So this is coming together quite nicely, and just for reference, look at how similar it looks to the original piece. So I'm just going to keep on gluing things down now that I've decided where things will go. It's just a matter of putting them back. I want to place the doilies so that they're not overlapping with that top layer of the pattern paper and the wood grain. But I do want to be able to see a little bit of the doily sticking out from behind the frames, as well as seeing the doily through the frames, through that glassine bag. I'm using some foam adhesive here. These are the foam tabs that come in our adhesive refill bundle that you can buy with your kit. These are from American Crafts. You can get them separately as well. And I really like the versatility of the fact that you can use the outside edges and cut them down. I'm using the 1mm size. I'm going to staple these tags together because first of all, it makes it easier for me to handle them, but also it adds another little texture. That tiny little staple is one more detail on the page. And I'm very aware that there's a lot of paper die cuts on this page. And so I'm trying to vary some texture whenever I have a chance. So what I like about putting that little gingham, that yellow gingham flag right there, is that it ties that scalloped white piece from Fancy Pants, it ties it into the rest of the page a little bit better instead of having it just kind of like floating underneath of the photo strip. I'm going to do almost the same thing over here, stapling the 2 tags together and then pulling them up a little bit so that they look a little bit more distressed. Here's where I'm realizing I wish I had switched these doilies, but I didn't. So I thought about actually changing the frame, but I decided against it. I'm just going to take this out and replace it with the frame from the other side because it wasn't already stuck to a doily. And then because this one is already stuck to a doily, I thought about just putting it down below, but I detached it and I've just decided I'm going to layer the new frame with that blue doily in such a way that the frame is covering the little torn pieces where I tore the other frame off of it. I'm using Art Glitter Dries Clear Glue. What is it called? Art Glitter dries clear designer adhesive is what I'm using. I love it. It's my new favorite adhesive. So putting the doily down below on the left side, it changes it up so it's not quite so symmetrical. I do want a repetition of the elements on both the right and the left-hand side, but I don't want it exactly symmetrical. So although the green frames are on the top, there's a different frame on the bottom, and on one side the doily is set higher in the cluster, and in the other the doily is set lower in the cluster. Those doilies are different colors as well. One side has that little scalloped white piece underneath of it, and the other side does not. So I'm just trying to vary it enough because I have lots of repetition going on here, and I don't want it to look too symmetrical. Now I do want to repeat this yellow gingham element that's over on the right hand side, so I think I'll just stick it right here. Actually, I like it there. So I just added a little bit of glue up in the part that would be tucked under, and then I just let it protrude a little bit so that it shows against the background paper. I don't know what I have on my hands that keeps getting on my background paper, but I've washed my hands. I was eating, and I don't typically, anyhow, yeah, I don't know what happened, but my background paper kept getting little, I don't know, grease spots on it or something. I'm repackaging these foam stickers because I like to have my 6x12 inch thickers and foam stickers to be in looser bags than what they come in for the manufacturers. So that's what I did there. I just keep 6x12 inch bags on hand. I had forgotten to glue that one down, so there we go with that. I grabbed two of those flower elements from the foam stickers that came in the kit, and that just adds a little bit of lift and a different texture because it's smooth and a little bit shiny compared to some of the other embellishments that are on the page. So my embellishing is pretty much done. There is a little bit of a brown splotch on the bottom of my page, but do you know what? I'm looking at it right now and I can't see it. So it might have actually just been maybe humidity that dried because I don't see it anymore, which is a good thing because it was kind of bothering me. Now these beautiful foam puffy stickers are part of the kit. They're thickers from the Farmstead Harvest collection from American Crafts. And on my copy of these thickers, some of the letters haven't had the little plastic coating pulled off of them. And so if you have this kit or just have these thickers, make sure that you examine them and see if you need to pull off the little plastic coating. It's like a plastic coating that's on a lot of things to keep the surface shiny. But I'm not used to it being on thickers. This is the first time this has ever happened. They just came this way from the manufacturers. And if mine are like this, then it's very possible that yours are like that. So just have a close look and see if you do need to pull it off, they pull off fairly easily. And you'll see that the sticker underneath is actually a little bit more shiny once you pull that little plastic coating off. I'm using my thicker alignment tool here, but you can use any thin, clear, ideally clear ruler to do this. And as you can see, I just spelled out the word apple E, and there's a little bit of a gap between the E and the Y because I plan to put a little hyphen in there. And my title here is going to be Happily Ever After. And there's what I mean about needing to pull off the plastic. So I'll just put the original layout back up again so that you can see that where I'm placing this title is where the subtitle was in the original layout. It said, I am here for a reason. And I pieced that together with letter stickers and a die cut. So this title is going at the same place that the subtitle was in the other one because the main title was up above where the floral paper is in this one. I'm cutting a little piece of my 7 off to use as a hyphen, but it went flying and I couldn't find it. So I cut another hyphen from the 7. I liked the 7 for the hyphen because it wasn't completely straight. It was just a little bit curvy, the way that you would expect a hyphen to be with this brush font. I'm having another quick look at my embellishments to just see if I might want to put another one of these words on. I actually ended up not putting these words. I had picked them out and decided not to use them. So I'm just taking one more second to make sure that I didn't want to use them after all, but I don't. One of the things that I do to make sure that I don't go looking for embellishments that are long gone is I try to remember to cross off the embellishments that I've used in sets like this, because I do use these backings to see if there's a piece that I want to use. So I keep those in the little bags. Now, the Take Me Home kit comes with an amazing set of confetti. I love the confetti pack. This month is my favorite confetti pack of them all. My first idea was that I would only scatter the confetti amongst the embellishments, meaning I wouldn't put them on the background paper. And so that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just sprinkling a little assortment of confetti pieces. And these confetti pieces are just like sequins, they just don't have the holes in them, so they're a little bit easier to glue in. You don't have to worry about the glue oozing out through the hole. I'm fiddling with it a little bit just to try to get it balanced, and I wanted to have the same number on each side. It didn't have to be exactly the same number, but just, not 2 on one side and 7 on the other side. I wanted it to be pretty close. And I think I went with 7 on each side. I am using my pickup stick to pick up these confetti pieces, and then my art glitter glue to glue them down. I had already flipped over any pieces that landed upside down, and I also changed a few colors just so that the color was balanced. So I think I might be done, but I'm actually going to decide to do one more thing. So first, I've decided I'm actually going to glue these stickers in place. They were sticking fairly well to this background, but because this is Swiss dot paper from Basil, my background, and the color, by the way, is, I think it's called Sandstorm or Sand. It might be called just Sand. Anyhow, that background paper, that Swiss dot, has a little tiny bit of texture, so each of those dots is raised up off the page a little bit. And I was a little bit worried that my letter stickers would not stick over time because of the textured nature of that background cardstock. So I'm just adding a little bit of glue. It never hurts to add glue. And with thickers, some of them are super sticky and some of them really aren't. So I'm thinking it's better safe than sorry. I don't want to have to put this back together again later. And while I was doing that, I decided I would add some sprinkles to the background paper as well. I put some just on my desk so that I could get an assortment of colors, because when I sprinkled the first time, it was almost all pinks. So I wanted to pull out some of those browns and also some of the other colors. This confetti mix has more brown and pink than anything else, but it also has a couple of different shades of green and yellow and a clear. And there we go. Now we're done, except for that roller date stamp that I told you about at the beginning. That pattern paper is so beautiful. I just love it. And this little cluster over here on the left is so sweet. I just love the combination of the die cuts and the frames, just so beautiful. Before I share the photos, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and also real-time unedited versions of every video that I make. They also get a monthly live stream, behind the scenes videos of my room and my process and various other things. So thanks to them. And if you're interested in having access to those things, my Patreon memberships start as low as $1. So, and everybody gets access to all the content for that same price. So it's a really great way to support me if you like my channel and want to support me. But even if you don't, thank you so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate you stopping by and spending some time on my channel. Please say hello, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this page, or if you have any ideas or thoughts or even video requests, I'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much for watching and have a really great scrappy week.